I went to law school because I said you can't fight the system that's feeding you. So I have to get out in order to deal with. And I saw the part of the picture, but this now, in this position that I'm in, I see the whole picture. And now I understand the education system, the medical system, the criminal justice system, and pharmaceutical, all these systems are in bed together and they were all working together. And the media, television, they were all the tools that were assisting with the effort.
Welcome to the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast, dedicated to you and your loved ones living at 100% for 100 years and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Plasker. Welcome, everybody, to the 100-Year Lifestyle, where we are transforming health and longevity worldwide so that you and your loved ones can live, truly live at 100% for 100 years and beyond. And I'm here with a very special guest, a former school teacher. We'll talk about that, attorney, family attorney, civil rights attorney, constitutional, brilliant speaker, and a fast friend, I guess, Tricia Lindsay from the great state of New York. Welcome, Tricia.
Thank you, Dr. Plasker. I'm happy to be here. Very happy to be here.
You know, it's funny how we met. We met, just to give a little background. I do a lot of work in the profession, my industry, chiropractic, on a global level, on a national level. And when all of the craziness broke loose in the world and all these mandates, illegal mandates, were coming down, or you'll talk about the legality of all of that. We, as an industry, there was the Chiropractic Defense Council, One Chiropractic, and some other groups that were working to position themselves to have attorneys be able to support chiropractors, their patients, and around the country. And so a good friend of mine, Kevin Jenkins, who, if you haven't heard our interviews with Kevin, you should go listen to those. They're really good. Kevin, I asked him, I said, hey, do you have an attorney that can help us? And he recommended Tricia. So that's initially how we met, but we had never met, right, Tricia?
Right. We spoke on the phone, but never met in person. Right.
And then a couple of months later, I see this dynamic woman speaking tremendous conviction in front of a rally of parents and freedom-loving people who are, by the way, that doesn't mean selfish. That doesn't, freedom and selfish are not different. It's just the opposite, actually, in my opinion. When you try to take away somebody's freedom, that's selfish. But anyway, I saw this woman speaking and I called Kevin. I said, Kevin, you got to meet this woman. She's dynamic. She's speaking, very eloquently about high-level legal things. And I showed him the video and it didn't have Tricia's name on it. And he says, Dr. Plasker, that's our girl, man. And so here we are doing a podcast interview, Tricia. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That story makes me chuckle all the time.
Yeah. So on that day, you were talking in front of a, tell us a little bit about that day and what you were doing that day, why you were there and why it was important to you.
Well, to be honest, that was the opening day of the legislative session in New York. I literally had just landed the night before coming back into the country. I got home at about after 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, got to bed, got up at 5, jumped in my car at 6, and knew I had to be in Albany because of what's going on, the mandates that are still happening in New York, despite the headlines that they're thinking about, that they're going to lift them. And, the governor is rethinking, her position, and Eric Adams, it's all a bait and switch. But I knew there were certain bills that were on the legislative floor. And then we later found out, we knew about Bill A416. And at that time, we were just becoming aware of the fact that it was withdrawn, but without completely sure about a regulation that was being proposed by the governor, which mimicked A416 and expanded it. So it was even worse. And so for me, with everything that was happening and our lives literally at stake, New York, all eyes are on New York. All eyes are on Connecticut, Jersey, California. We are the leading states in this matter, right? And New York has become a very different place. I mean, I don't even go to Manhattan as much anymore because there's nothing down there. The environment, the atmosphere, the culture, it's just completely different. And so they have literally changed this state in the city into something that's virtually unrecognizable. And I knew that they were coming for the children. They launched that attack a long time ago. They were coming for the families. They're trying to separate parents their children and trying to remove parental authority from parents. And so that's going to cause a severe breakdown. And then it leaves the children vulnerable, right, for other things, which, depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you are on this matter, we all know what comes as a result of that. And so for me, I knew I had to be there no matter what. I had to. And there was bad weather that day. As a matter of fact, Kevin Jenkins was supposed to be there, and he opened his door to ice all over the place and just couldn't make it. So I drove through many different types of climates getting to Albany that day. It was interesting, or weather patterns. But I had to be there because a lot is at stake. A lot was at stake that day, and a lot is still at stake. And we had to let the legislators know that we, the people, are demanding that they either represent us or they need to vacate their seats. And that's still my stand to this day.
It's interesting. You used words like bait and switch. We know that politicians are amazing marketers in marketing to the people to get them to think one thing is happening when there's actually something else happening. And we saw that with the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and we saw that with the safe and effective. We saw that with so many different things. We saw that trying to say we want to unite the country. We're not uniting the country, more divided together. We saw that with race. This is protecting people of color and people of all nationalities, when it really didn't. And it's interesting because as a lawyer, an attorney now, you can see the bait and switch because you dig into the details. The devil's in the details. What was being represented outwardly that was not being true inwardly when you got into the details? What did you see that maybe the general public couldn't see?
This has nothing to do with the health and safety of the public. It has nothing to do with that, because everything that they're doing goes against the science. As a medical practitioner, that it goes against the science. When they are when a protocol is being utilized in a hospital to treat quote unquote COVID patients, whether, depending on where you are, whether you believe, that COVID exists or it's a flu or whatever, when they're utilizing protocol that's not working, when does the medical professional, the medical expert say, stop, this doesn't make sense. We've lost X amount of patients using the same protocol, so we can't use this anymore. Why is that not happening? When I listened to different news reports that were coming across the screen about hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and then I start digging in and doing research, and I'm saying, but these things have been on the market. These medicines have been on the market for years, and when you look at the efficacy rate and the history, and I'm not going to act like I'm a doctor, but when you look at hydroxychloroquine and its rate of success, and the fact that it virtually has no side effects, right? And how it combats COVID. When you look at ivermectin, when you look at budesonide, nebulized, along with a number of other medications that's out there. When you look at natural immunity, once upon a time in this country, natural immunity was you eat properly, right? You treat your body right, you exercise, you hope to build natural immunity against all these viruses and things that can attack our bodies. And all of a sudden, natural immunity is being pushed aside. We're crazy. People that are saying natural immunity is best are deemed as crazy, as nuts, as people who don't believe the science. That doesn't make sense to me. And then when I'm looking at what's being portrayed in the legally and on the front, when politicians and leaders are saying, and legal practitioners are saying, well, this is the law. A mandate is not a law. So when you're making those statements, to people who don't know the difference between a mandate, a law, a regulation, a bill, these things, I'm watching the manipulation and the control that's happening and the fear that's being used to push it. So they're paralyzing people by fear and then hypnotizing them, into walking.
So let me ask you real quick, because I think you brought up an important point. What is the difference between a mandate and a law?
A mandate is not a law. A mandate is a directive, an order that's given in hopes that people will just follow it. A law is something that is proposed. The legislator has to vote on it. It's a bill, starts out as a bill. It's proposed, it's written in one house. It has to, in New York and all the states, I believe, across America, a bill is proposed. If it's brought in the assembly, there has to be a co-sponsor, right, with the Senate. They then have to write the exact same bill. There are debates between the houses. They go back and forth, the different leaders, yay, nay, and then there's a vote. And then the governor signs it into law, and it proceeds in line with that. A mandate there's none of that takes place. It's a directive, it's an order that's given. And you convince people, or you tell people, this is the law, this is what you have to do, and you give justifiable reasons, or you give reasons why anyone who's not following the mandate is the problem. And then you get all of society to now start, complying with this measure. And then the more people comply, the stronger it gets. And now there's reason and justification to write it into law some way, somehow, which is what the governor has done with her regulation.
Wow. And so when I saw you speaking, you were talking about the constitutionality of everything that's going on. And I don't think everybody understands what that means, by the people, for the people, and all of that. And you said some things that were so eloquent and so important that a lot of people, I think it would give them personal power, conviction, strength to stand up, speak up, be a leader, be more vocal. We're vocal. You're vocal. But for the average person to become more vocal, talk to us about the constitutionality of some of these things, and what does the Constitution say? What can governors or legislators or politicians actually do, and what is unconstitutional? Because it would be great, I think, if people had from your perspective, a legal point of view, how would you explain that to the average person?
So there are many twists and turns with this, but the Constitution is straightforward when it comes to our protections and our rights. And the Constitution, government for the people, by the people. In the United States of America, this is a democratic republic. All authority in this country is given first by God, because this country was founded by people who were running from religious persecution. So they came here looking for rights to practice, rights and freedoms to freely practice their religion, right? Their religious beliefs, their morals, their values. They came here looking for that. And so when the government was created, it was created by people. It was created by the founders that came here, citizens of this country, people, right? Because citizenship didn't even exist initially, right? But by people. The government was formed to protect the rights of the people to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. The pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what the Constitution protects, pretty much. It's all about freedom. The Declaration of Independence, the same thing. The Declaration of Human Rights, the same thing. And these documents hold true that, first of all authority comes from God. And if our government that is created by the people fails, if they go against the laws of God, they pretty much have gone against our rights, because we have human rights in this country. We have rights in this country just by the virtue of being human. That's where it starts first. Before the categories, before the people groups, before women's rights, men's rights, LGBTQ rights, children's rights, before all of those designations and all those groups come into play, which were created by government, right? Or as a result of what government action did in this country. So if we start just at being humans, which is where these documents begin, we have rights. Those rights come from God, because God made all humans. And it doesn't matter what you call him. If you call him Yahweh, if you call him Allah, whatever you call him, there's this supreme being, this deity that has given all authority in this country. There's no king or queen in America, so it goes from God to the people. The people formed government to protect these rights. So government has clear functions. And that primary function is to ensure that our rights are protected. When they fail to do that and they go against those rights, or they do anything that is counterproductive to those rights, we have a duty to abolish. We have to abolish that government, and we have the authority to rewrite it or to reform it. And that is what being a magistrate is about. It's understanding your authority. A magistrate is a person that sits under authority. And there are higher magistrates and lesser magistrates. We are lesser magistrates in this country, but we're only lesser magistrates to God. The government is even lower than us, because the government gets its power and authority from us. And so when the truckers' convoy are holding the line and saying, we're not moving, we're not complying with this mandate, when teachers are walking out, when doctors are walking out, when the ordinary citizens are questioning the federal government and challenging them and saying, we're not doing this. That is the people, government for the people, by the people, reclaiming their authority, taking it back and making the government or requiring the government to answer to us. And either you shift back in line and get back in place and do what you were put there to do, or they need to relinquish their seats. And that goes all the way up to the three branches of government.
Wow, very interesting, very enlightening. And so as an individual, we should be empowered to speak. I mean, it is our right to speak. It is our country. We need to, obviously, human rights, if we're respectful for each other, we care about each other, we are good to each other, and we have the right to say no to government mandates, and we have a right to. But then what comes down to it, I think a lot of people are concerned, okay, well, can we trust? Right now, it seems like the government is in charge of everything, like they're controlling everything, and there's no justice. I think that's the thing that is frustrating a lot of people right now. I know it frustrates my wife, it frustrates my children, it frustrates a lot of our patients, it frustrates a lot of my colleagues, it frustrates a lot of our friends, is that there's no justice. How do we get justice with all of this? It seems like everything takes so long, and it's a constant battle, and it's so expensive. And the other thing, this is a long-winded question, but when you think about all those things, this is I believe that we're at war. I have no question in my mind that there is a war. There's a war against us. There's a war against our ideals. There's a war against our democracy. It's interesting, in World War II, the uniform of that war were hard hats and swastikas, and that was a uniform of that war. The uniform of the war of Vietnam was a green camouflage outfit. The war of Desert Storm, that war was a sandy colored camouflaged outfit, and the uniform in this war is suits and ties, and the soldiers are lawyers and judges. And so it's a really interesting thing. So how do we get justice? What can we do as individuals to help speed up this exhausting process that is frustrating everybody?
I think people are starting to get wind of that. When the truckers are parking their trucks and saying they're not delivering anything, that is major. In this country, they only respect, the powers that be only respect the almighty dollar, right? It's control and it's economics. That's what it is. And economics controls everything, right? So those on top that have all the money are controlling the narrative. But when we understand the power that we have, the truckers are so exciting to me because they have owned their authority. They understand how they own their power. They understand how much power they have. Nothing moves in this country unless a truck is bringing it in. If the trucks park, that is it. Food, gas, it doesn't matter. Even if it comes in on a plane from another country, a truck still has to go and pick it up and take it to its ultimate destination. If more of us do that, that is owning our power and taking back our authority. That's one way for the average citizen to do it. So when parents are pulling their children out of schools, I read a report the other day that New York and Manhattan, a key districts down there, parents are pulling children out in droves. Once they remove 30%, I believe, of the students, federal dollars dry up. There we have it. Let's start talking, right? Okay, pull them out. And then when you pull them out, now we need to go back and demand our tax dollars. Because guess what? If you're not going to educate my child, you don't get to keep my money. And now I get to take my money and put it somewhere else. And just like Kevin Jenkins, I'm sure you heard about the Medical Freedom Alliance.
Yes.
Yes, that's an alternate medical system, right? So if now all the freedom practitioners and all the practitioners that understand this shifts over to a different system and people are able to get health care from doctors who understand and respect their freedoms and who are truly interested in preserving their lives and keeping them healthy, everyone's going to go. I had a conversation with a new colleague of mine. She runs an urgent care. And I stopped by to see her the other day, and the place was empty. And she said, "What's going on?" She said, "I went to visit a couple of doctor friends of mine or colleagues, and they said no one's in their offices. No one's coming to visit." And I said, because people don't trust doctors anymore. People are questioning what's happening. And so what's going to happen is if those doctors refuse to stand up and hold the line and join in this, their practices are going to be gone because people are making informed decisions and they're making choices and they're seeking healthcare elsewhere. So
yeah, and I got news for you. They are lining up for chiropractors. Our 100-year lifestyle chiropractors and our colleagues, they
Yes.
are booming because we just did a podcast called Primary Care with a Natural Flair. And what you just said, what you just said is so true, that we have people coming into our practice saying, I'm sick of doctors. They're like drug pushers. I don't even think they know what they're listening to anymore or looking at. They're just prescribing the drug that the pharmaceutical companies are telling them to prescribe. So people are looking for drug-free healthcare, and they're coming like crazy to chiropractors. And so I totally hear what you're saying. And I think it's a great, important thing for everybody else to listen to, that you got to take this kind of action in protest in whatever way is surrounding your world, your personal world.
Absolutely. We built this country. This country was built by ancestors, the people before us. It didn't just land. Everything that's here, Kaiser, the FDA, everything that's in place, all these businesses, all these hospitals, all these entities were built. So all we have to do is build it. I tell doctors and nurses and teachers, I said, you lost your position. You didn't lose your skills and you didn't lose your knowledge. Take it and start something else. I said, doctors and nurses used to visit people in homes and treat them. Right now, if I got sick, I'm not going to a hospital. My daughter wasn't feeling well the other day. I'm not taking her to a hospital. Absolutely not. So I will call practitioners that I know that can treat her, that I trust. And if they have an office, I'll take them there. If not, can you come here? That's the way I see it. Because unless she's critically ill, I don't need what's in the hospital. And now with Medical Freedom Alliance, I will have somewhere to go whereby if, God forbid, she does, or anyone that I know that becomes critically ill, there's somewhere that they can go that is trustworthy. The schools, what's going on in the schools, incredible. It's gone from removing analytical thought to now pushing sex education classes that's not about puberty. That's pretty much indoctrinating children with topics and information that really concerning.
Very
really
concerning.
Of serious concern, and it almost reminds me of when violence was pushed on television so much so that children in certain areas became desensitized to violent, to the point where they picked up certain behaviors and it became ingrained in their neighborhoods. It's almost like that now. So it's an indoctrination to desensitize children about certain things, so that when they are approached with certain philosophies or behaviors or choices or actions, that it won't bother them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Normal. Yeah, they think it's normal because they learned it in school.
To normalize all this stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. And I think what's near and dear to your heart, certainly near and dear to mine. I've been teaching doctors around the country and around the world, pediatric chiropractic care, holistic health care for 20 years. And it's always been a passion of mine to keep the children healthy and empower them, to get them to believe in their own bodies, to have the conviction to understand that their bodies are self-healing, self-regulating, that they need to make good choices, that they have the right to make good choices. And so that brings me to two things that are, I think, really cool about you that I learned is, number one, that you were an educator for 24 years. This is a second career for you. That's a 100-year lifestyle story right there, girl. You're in a second career, living out your passion. You were an educator for 24 years, and now you went back to school to become a lawyer. Talk to us from that perspective, what was it like being an educator and making a transition to something now that you're passionate about?
Well, education is what pushed me to go into law, to be honest with you, to pursue law, because I saw the school to prison pipeline. I saw the decline in education. I saw the decline in the health of students. There were more students coming in with learning disabilities than I had seen previously. There was an increase in emotional disabilities, where we have access to an obscene amount of money that passes through all these systems, including especially the medical system. So with me living in America, such a sophisticated country that has access to resources, unlimited resources, why are more and more children getting sick? Why are we seeing an increase with autism? Why are we seeing an increase of children being placed on medication? It just didn't make sense. And so I started thinking about it. And I said, something else is going on here. And I literally would say that there's something in the food, the prenatal vitamins, something is happening, and there's scientists sitting in a room collecting data, and the children are the results. And I would say that for years. And so all of that combined made me want to leave the system so that I could correct the system. Because between the criminal justice system and children falling prey to that, between watching and understanding the fact that 99%, 98% of incarcerated felons are functionally illiterate. So there's a connection right there. The school to prison pipeline that I was seeing, the emotional disabilities, all of it just didn't make sense. And I said, something is happening. And then when I would have debates with colleagues and they would say, the school system is broken, is broken, is broken. I said, the school system is not broken. The school system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And we keep approaching it from the wrong angle. And that's why it's not getting any better. I said, we keep treating the runny nose, but we're not treating the source of that runny nose. And that's the issue. And so I left. I went to law school because I said, you can't fight the system that's feeding you. So I have to get out in order to deal with it. And I saw the part of the picture, but this now, in this position that I'm in, I see the whole picture. And now I understand the education system, the medical system, the criminal justice system, and pharmaceutical, all these systems are in bed together, and they were all working together. And the media, television, they were all the tools that were assisting with the effort.
Criminals, financing the communication of all of that to brainwash people on all wrong and bad information. You know, we were very fortunate when I was in school, 1982 to 1985. That was leading up to 1986, the act that was passed that removed liability from the drug companies for any vaccines. And I never chose that battle. I just said, you know what, I'm going to have a family one day. And this battle is on my doorstep here in Atlanta. There was a lot of rallies back then, believe it or not, on fighting against these mandatory vaccines and no liability. And it ended up passing that there was no liability for these vaccines. And because there's no liability, there's no testing. Like there was none of the testing that they said they were going to do to monitor safety. None of it ever happened. We know the 1% of the people, there were just a couple of studies done in 2020 that people that have not received, the kids that have not received childhood vaccines are much healthier than the general population. Our kids grew up with natural immunity, never had a shot, never had a drug, and they're healthy as can be, and they're living that way. And a lot of people don't know that you can actually live that way. And not only can you live that way, that you can be healthier. And so, you know, fighting that, you know, for people who need support, you need to speak to an attorney like Tricia, who can support you and help you get what you need and want in your community. And I want to, because we could probably go on for hours. I don't want to, this has been great and enlightening for me. I don't want to go anywhere though without my favorite part of our relationship, since I learned from day one that you are also a chiropractic advocate, that you started getting a chiropractic care when you were a kid, and you've been utilizing chiropractic care throughout your lifetime. Talk about the difference that chiropractic care has made for you and what it's done for you, and why you are such a supporter of our Chiropractic Defense Council and our people in our industry.
Because I believe in natural immunity. I believe that our body was made by God and is designed to heal itself if we take care of it. And I just believe that that's what it is. I believe the medical industry is completely contrary to that. When you go, it's drugs and surgery, drugs and surgery, drugs and surgery. And all it does is make it causes more of a decline in your health. I'm not saying there aren't any good doctors. I'm just saying my first line of defense is chiropractic, taking care of myself. And it's to the point where I'm so conflicted because my daughter wants to be a pediatrician or a surgeon to help people who have had constructive surgery. So breast cancer patients, kids that have been maimed or things of that nature, burn patients. And I keep telling her to consider chiropractic because of the ethic of chiropractic and what chiropractors do. And so she's thinking about it, but I just believe in it. And actually when I taught biology. And I literally would teach the children about chiropractic services. I would show them the spine. I would show them how every organ was connected to the spine and how it controls. I mean, I would just go completely into the lesson. So I believe in chiropractic. I believe in natural immunity. I just believe in taking care of yourself. And so that's why I'm part of Chiropractic Council. That's why I'm part of the 100-year lifestyle, because I believe it.
Well said. And I don't have a picture to show, but we joked about it, that we're actually twins, because I used to have hair just like yours, big red afro. You didn't believe me, did you?
I didn't. Didn't, but it's true.
But we got to
It's
get a
true.
picture. Wait, I'm going to get a screenshot. There you go. So we can put them side by side. I'm going to add you to my collection of pictures with all my relatives, from, including the horse from Iceland and my brother from another, my sister with all those red afros. And very important person in our world right now. We're so grateful for you. Give us some closing thoughts for somebody listening to this that maybe needs one last extra jolt of motivation to stand up, speak up, lead, have a voice, and prevent this world from changing in the direction that it's going and steering it back in the direction that's good for our children growing up in a country where they can live and express their full potential 100% for 100 years and beyond.
If you don't have the right to bodily autonomy to determine what goes into your body and what does not, you don't have anything. If you don't have freedom, you don't have anything. If the right to the care, custody, and control of your children are removed from you, you don't have a family, you don't have life, they're taking everything. We cannot comply. This agenda succeeds or is reliant upon our ignorance and our compliance. We are magistrates. Know who you are and whose you are. Stand under that authority and call our leaders into question them, and check them. They have to speak for us. Government for the people, by the people, will not be abolished.
Mic drop. Tricia Lindsay, attorney, living, practicing our 100-year lifestyle and making sure, fighting for all of us to be able to do the same. Tricia, thank you so much for the time. Can't wait to see you in person, give you a big hug. Appreciate you being with us.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Until next time, enjoy your day. Great day on your way to a sensational century. Thank you so much for joining us on the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have topics that you want us to cover, people you want us to interview, maybe you have some stories that you want to share, stories of yourself, loved ones, people in your life, we would love to hear from you and share your story. Please email us at my100@100yearlifestyle.com. And remember, nobody wants to get to 100 or even 50, 60, or 70 for that matter, crippled, broke, and alone. So please share the 100-Year Lifestyle, all of our podcasts, social media pages, website with your family, friends, and coworkers so they can take this journey with you. And until next time, adjust your lifestyle. Live your best life today and every day on the road to a sensational century. Dr. Plasker signing off.